All right, let's dive right into one of biology's absolute biggest puzzles. Today, in this explainer, we're taking a slightly whimsical, paper-crafted journey to figure out why we age the way we do. And as you can see from our little paper-cut feline friend here, we're going to be looking at everything from tiny mice to massive whales, navigating through decades of research to answer one really fundamental question: what actually dictates the ticking of our biological clocks?
Back in the day, the British mathematician and astronomer John Herschel famously called the emergence and replacement of species the mystery of mysteries. And that exact phrase actually inspired Charles Darwin himself. But hidden right inside that grand mystery of evolution is a much more personal puzzle. It's something our cat here is pondering while looking up at the stars: the mystery of a lifespan. What actually determines how much time a living thing gets on this planet?
Think about it. Why does your pet cat naturally outlive the mice it catches, but its whole life is literally just a blink of an eye compared to a gigantic bowhead whale? What is driving this massive disparity across the animal kingdom? Is it just completely random luck, or is there some sort of hardwired mathematical code running behind the scenes? Well, let's unpack this and find out.
To really get to the bottom of this, we need to rewind to the 1930s. A biologist named Max Kleiber stumbled onto something huge, what we now call Kleiber's law. Basically, he figured out that an animal's basal metabolic rate, which is just the baseline energy it burns to stay alive, scales to the 3/4 power of its mass. You can see our cat playfully batting at the actual math right there. But in plain English, it means biology doesn't scale on a simple 1-to-1 ratio. Physical size completely alters how an animal burns energy.
Let's put that into perspective, because it's actually super fascinating. If our cat weighs 100 times more than a mouse, you'd intuitively think, okay, it needs 100 times the energy. Nope. Because of Kleiber's law, the cat only uses about 32 times the energy. Larger animals are actually way more efficient with their metabolism. For a long time, scientists looked at this and came up with the rate of living theory. They just assumed that a fast metabolism like a little mouse has meant you basically burned out faster, while a slow, efficient metabolism meant you'd live longer. Makes sense, right?
Well, not quite. When you actually map all this out across thousands of species spanning over 20 orders of magnitude and body size, the plot completely thickens. I mean, look at this data. The general trend is there, sure. Bigger animals generally have slower metabolic rates. But look at how wildly scattered these dots are. There is a massive amount of variation that simple math and the rate of living theory just cannot explain.
So what's actually happening here? Researchers realize there's a whole other dimension at play, something they call the lifestyle axis. And this is crucial. It fundamentally dictates how an organism chooses to spend its energy budget. It proves that you can have two animals of the exact same size, but they'll have completely different lifespans based on whether their specific lifestyle pushes their energy production above or below that expected mathematical baseline.
Take bats and primates, for example. Look at the yellow and red dots here. They completely break the rules. They have significantly lower production rates and live way, way longer than other mammals of their exact same physical size. This is the proof right here that biological aging is about so much more than just your mass. There's a deep, evolutionary choice happening with how energy gets used.
So how do we explain rule breakers like that? Enter British biologist Thomas Kirkwood. He came up with the Disposable Soma theory of aging, and honestly, it's an absolute game changer. His theory argues that every single living thing operates on a strict, completely limited energy budget. Since energy isn't infinite, you have to make a trade-off. An organism basically has to choose how it divides its resources between three things: growing, reproducing, and repairing its own DNA.
Imagine it like a canvas. Our little cat here is an artist, but it only has a limited palette of energy paint to work with. If a species evolves in a way where it spends all its paint on rapid growth and frantic reproduction, well, it's not going to have enough paint left to fix its own cells. The body, or the soma, essentially becomes disposable. It prioritizes passing on its genes to the next generation, completely sacrificing its own long-term maintenance in the process.
And you really don't want to skimp on that maintenance, because the toll on the body is incredibly severe. When you don't repair your cells, you could fray DNA, shorten telomeres, which are those little protective caps on the ends of your chromosomes, and a massive pileup of dangerous mutations. We actually see what happens when this goes wrong in humans with a condition called progeria. Defects in the proteins that repair DNA cause patients to age something like 7 times faster than normal. Without active repair, the biological system just crashes.
This whole energy trade-off idea ties perfectly into a classic ecological concept from the late 60s,
R and K selection. Basically, it's the ultimate evolutionary showdown between quantity and quality. Does an animal sink its limited energy budget into pumping out as many babies as humanly or animally possible? That's R selection. Or does it invest all its energy into nurturing just a couple of highly capable offspring? That's K selection.
First up, the R strategists. I like to call this the fast and furious approach. Think of a mouse. They live in total chaos. The odds of a baby mouse surviving to adulthood in an unpredictable environment are horribly slim. So their evolutionary math says, mature as fast as possible, have giant litters of cheap offspring, and don't waste time on parental care. They spend literally all their energy on reproduction and zero on fixing their own cells. The result? A very short life.
On the flip side, you've got the K strategists. This is the slow and steady crowd. Picture our giant bowhead whale just peacefully cruising through a stable, serene ocean. K strategists live in relatively predictable environments, but they face intense competition. So they invest heavily in building a strong, well-maintained body. They have very few babies, but they pour massive amounts of energy into raising them. Because they prioritize cellular maintenance, they get to stick around for a very long time.
And man, when we talk about sticking around, the bowhead whale is on a whole other level. They are the ultimate K strategists. Scientists have sequenced their genome and found insane longevity traits. By prioritizing DNA repair above almost everything else, they've unlocked a level of biological resilience that is just mind-blowing. In fact, some literature playfully hints at a theoretical, almost mythical cellular endurance of up to 10,000 years. That represents the absolute pinnacle of what biology can do when you push the energy budget entirely towards somatic maintenance.
So I think our feline friend has finally cracked the code here. An animal's lifespan isn't just a random roll of the dice. It's a highly calibrated evolutionary equation. It all starts with the stability of the environment. That dictates how the animal allocates its energy budget, which forces a brutal trade-off between creating new life and repairing the old one. That balance is the secret sauce that determines whether you get the lifespan of a mouse, a cat, or a whale.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with something to really chew on. We've just seen how evolution locked our lifespans into this strict energy trade-off. Humans are no exception. We also have a disposable soma. But today, science, medicine, biotechnology, we're actively trying to hack the system. So if our entire biology is bound by this ancient evolutionary budget, what actually happens when we try to artificially rewrite that budget and extend our own lives? It's a mystery we are only just beginning to unravel. Thanks so much for exploring with us.
Knowledge grows through sharing. What are your thoughts on today's topic? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe as we continue to grow together.